Welcome to another episode of the Digital Tourism Show. In this episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with four key industry experts, all based here in Scotland. And we will be discussing the effects COVID has had on their business during the various lockdowns, the restrictions, and what their outlook is for 2021. And we're covering many different facets of the travel space. We are covering accommodation, hospitality, tours and activities, as well as attractions. We're speaking with Bridgie Mullen of the Clydeside Distillery, Zakia Malawi Gwiri of Invisible Cities, Deborah Mackin of East Cambusman Holiday Cottages, and Laura Mackenzie of Cathedral House. So this is going to make such an interesting talk. They share their insights of what they've been doing during lockdown, how they've tried to keep their business going and what they're doing to survive, and what their outlook is for 2021 and their hopes and dreams. So this is an important episode if you're in any of those spaces. So welcome to the Digital Tourism Show, episode 253. Hello everyone, hopefully we can hear you all.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hi there. So again, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you all doing this and taking time out to basically hopefully let people know what's happening in the industry in terms of people here in Glasgow, what's happening because of COVID restrictions, but also we have many people watching worldwide in terms of what's happening. So we thought this would be a great chat and I appreciate you all taking the time. So thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is start off with basically by saying, as we all know, Glasgow, specifically for those who are here in Scotland in the whole, has followed a lot of what the rest of the UK has done in terms of going into a tier system. Although we have a 5-tier system, the rest of the UK has 3-tier systems. It's all getting rather confusing in terms of which system we're all in. And this is obviously affecting how people travel to different areas within our own country, etc. And hopefully this chat will help maybe sort of highlight what that is and how we're going to cope with that. But my first question is going to be to each and every one of you, and I'll ask Bridget first, if you don't mind, is what's the current sort of situation with your business at the moment? Now, are you operating? How badly has it been affected throughout the last few months and at this moment in time, Bridget?
So for the Clydeside Distillery, unfortunately, when we closed our doors in March, we didn't foresee that we would still be closed. So this is us, 8 months, and I suppose it's been a very tough situation. It's really impacted on the whole business. I mean, across the board. So our visitor attraction, we provide tours. We've got a lovely cafe, a well-filled stocked shop, and an amazing team. But unfortunately, we've remained closed. The 2-meter rule is still in place for visitor attractions. When we looked at that, it wasn't going to be viable for us to provide tours. Our well-designed attraction is not designed for restrictions, 2 meters or even 1 meter. It's just not viable. And again, the big challenge for us, of course, is, our customer base. We rely on everything that happens in the city and everything that comes into the city. Our customers are domestic, national, predominantly European and international. And so without, our conferencing, without our music events, without our sporting events, without, our university students bringing their families when they come to our cities, without our business events, without our group tours and travel, we've got no visitors. So as you can appreciate, it's had a dire impact. And then we have another tier to our business, and that's our evening events. So of course, that's all but gone for 2020. The impact, it's not just us, but it's our partners, it's our suppliers, our caterers, our florists, our linen companies, our AVs. So it's been really, really tough. The positive for us, though, is, the distillery has been in production, and, the team the small team we have there, they've done an amazing job producing hand sanitizer, and that's a huge thing for our wee team to have done, and getting that out to local charities. But yeah, it's been really tough. Who could have foreseen it? I mentioned this previously. I was so naive thinking this would be a few weeks, but the duration is more than we could have imagined. But it's now about looking at the future and what that's going to bring.
Yeah, I think we all did think that this was just going to be some sort of like passing flu and it would be over within a few weeks. And at the very start of this, I don't think you're the only one. As we spoke earlier before we came on air, I don't think it's naive. I think it's just what everyone thought. No, we didn't realise how severe this was, etc. And you made a good point there. This isn't just affecting your business; it's affecting all the suppliers down the chain as well. So it's everything from the florist all the way up to all the other businesses who has helped. So it's had a massive effect. Zakia, what about the tours and activities side with your business? How's that been affected?
For me, sorry,
Yes,
I
Zakia,
didn't.
yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, but I guess in a similar way. So we stopped. We could see, because we have a lot of guests that are coming from international destinations and students, high schools, but also large groups of visitors. A lot of that stopped for us before March. Already a little bit through February, we could see loads of cancellations and loads of things happening. So it didn't come as a shock, but we started tours again, operating tours again in at the end of July, at the start of August. We changed slightly some of our messaging around having more locals, obviously rediscover their cities, and having families do activities together within their own city, so to attract locals or staycation, travelers. But in terms of what it means for the business, we have very small groups, very small tours operating, which engages our guides well, but in terms of business doesn't really generate the same amount of money or the same profit that larger tours brought before, when it was, groups of 20, 30 school kids. So that's an issue. I guess for us, the biggest challenge was that we work and train people who have experienced different things in life, and some of them, all of them have experienced homelessness, but some of them may have very poor mental health or suffer from anxiety or different, experiences of trauma. And a lot of the lockdown and a lot of this year has brought back a lot of issues. And it's now that we're actually dealing with the consequences of that. So we see a lot of people who maybe had histories of addiction, who maybe relapsed or are finding it really, really difficult because they have a lot more time on their hands. They can't meet face to face. They can't access services the same way. So the support side of our business has been incredibly busy, and it's been very intense. And yet at the same time, the business side has been really, really quiet. So it's trying to find that balance between the two, which 2020 has been all about. So yeah, challenging times indeed.
Yeah, and I think what you said there, the mental health side of it is such a huge issue at the moment, for everyone. Although it's not anywhere near what I suppose what you're going through with the team that you have and what they've went through in the past. But even my own family, my own daughter, for example, who's only 11, knows I've seen her anxiety and panic attacks increase massively through this. Thinking she would never meet her friends again and being at school and all these sort of things, and just seeing that happening to my daughter, I'm going, Christ, this is affecting everyone. It's the mental health is such a huge thing at the moment that everyone really needs to address, I think. So, and it's good that you have that support network to deal with that. So that's really good. Really good to hear. Mm-hmm. Deborah, what about yourself with accommodation? Are you finding being affected? Well, obviously you have been affected, but no, how are you finding things?
And so, for those that don't know, we've got self-catering cottages by Loch Lomond, and that's just half an hour, 40 minutes from the centre of Glasgow. And a lot of our customers will do a lot of national park stuff here and use Glasgow, go to a distillery, enjoy some food in town, maybe go to one of the galleries or museums. So, we're very much connected with the Glasgow market, as well as having our own sort of rural tourists. We are open and trading, so I'm feeling very fortunate compared to most people. But what is happening, obviously, I can tell you the days, 16th and 17th of March were, at that point, the worst days of my tourism business life. I thought we were doing okay, and then suddenly every single email and phone call was cancellations or what can we do about our bookings, etc. And so, like everyone else, we dealt with that and rescheduled people or refunded people, thinking, I don't know what I thought, 2 months, 3 months. I didn't think it'd be a couple of weeks, but I just thought by autumn would be sorted, or even by summer would be sorted. And we're not. And so, yes, we have been, we've had bookings from people since July, around about the 6th, the 10th of July, and we have been busy. We were busy anyway. We had bookings anyway, and all of those European visitors that were booked for this summer were not ever able to come. So actually, that's an awful lot of people. Those gaps largely got filled, and that's obviously good news for us. But overall, we're about 60% down, which I think probably compared to some other businesses is still quite good. But on our year's takings, we're about 60% down. One of the difficulties for accommodation is this change in circumstances. So in Scotland today, the Parliament's been discussing the proposed 5 tiers and what that can mean. But, things have changed between July and now, changed a number of times. We had to deal with the issue about not allowing multiple households in accommodation. Now, actually, one of our cottages is 4 bedrooms. So for the most part, most of the bookings are from either a group of friends or a couple of families, a multi-generational family. And very rarely is that a single household. So again, another flurry of cancellations. And so it's this constant change in order to stand still. So yes, we're fortunate because we've got a trading business, but it's been very hard work keeping that going. Resilience is the word of my year.
Did you manage to, any of your international customers, did you manage to ask them to defer to another date? Are you able to do that? Or was it just a pure cancellation, do you think?
A little bit of a mix of both. I've got to say my European visitors have been absolutely wonderful in their conversations. Unlike most UK visitors, they have tried getting money from their own insurance companies. Mainly unsuccessfully, but they have tried. And a lot of UK customers don't see it as an insurance issue, cancelling something that, travel in the UK. We now know most insurers aren't paying out, but they should have done.
Yeah.
The European visitors, some I've issued full refunds to, but they are hoping to come back.
Well, here's hoping.
Yeah.
And Laura, yourself, you're basically in the heart of Glasgow. You have an accommodation as well as a hospitality space, a bar, a restaurant, and everything else. So I imagine you've been quite severely impacted with all the different restrictions that have come into Glasgow, especially.
It's been the weirdest year for everyone I know, and Deborah saying 17th of March, St Patrick's Day, closing the doors, throwing out all the food stock, actually personally standing there and throwing away all those losses of your business was horrific, along with every cancellation. Every email was a cancellation, every phone call was a cancellation. It was really, really tough. And obviously at that point, we didn't know about any grants or furlough or any of the positive things that then came, So that couple of weeks was horrendous. We were really lucky, We did some volunteering work with Glasgow Royal Infirmary. So every evening we would send 100 meals up to the Royal for the staff. So they were getting a well-balanced home-cooked meal because they were working long shifts. And in return, the Royal actually put key workers up with us. So we managed to stay open in the accommodation side of things and keep things going. I mean, it wasn't anything like what we anticipated we would be doing this year. we're a relatively new business. In March there, it was our 18-month kind of anniversary, and we'd gone through 2 winters and 1 summer. So it was the worst possible time for us as a new business, but we got through to July, and then again, this moving, constant change, and trying to be creative. The next step was the beer gardens opening. So we had a massive kind of plan to get everything open and ready, which we did, and that was phenomenal. We took more alcohol sales in one day than we've ever taken in the 18 months prior. So that was amazing. But it's just the constant change. So right now, as of today, we have no guests in the hotel. We have Cafe Bar is now closed. We have no events, and obviously the beer garden in Glasgow coming up for November is not exactly going to be somewhere that people are going to want to be. So yeah, it's really dire. We had 15 staff. We've now got 5 back on full-time furlough, and the other 10 are no longer with us. So it's been devastating, and a new challenge presents itself almost every day.
Mm-hmm. I think with Glasgow, I think because we've been stuck in our homes for so long, I think sitting in a beer garden, no matter how cold it is, we probably still work quite well, to be honest, at this moment in time. So yeah.
We could, in theory, we could be open. We could have our Cafe Bar serving meals. And obviously we are open for accommodation, but because you can't serve alcohol, and we only have 7 rooms, with a very low occupancy, there would be absolutely no financial, benefit to us to serve one evening meal to one guest who happens to be working at the Royal Infirmary on Thursday night. And the bulk of our leisure travel, they cancelled as soon as the restaurants were closed, because they were coming to Glasgow to maybe go and eat out in a restaurant. They can't go to an event. Clearly, it's very restricted what they can do. But even when that benefit was taken away, there was another flurry of cancellation. So we thought we were doing okay. And then, of course, as the legislation changes or as the guidelines change, everything changes, for the business. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So I'll come to you first, Laura. Laura, what was your hopes for 2020? What was meant to happen in 2020 in your plans that you had at the start of the year, when everybody gets into January, think, okay, this is what I'm going to do for 2020. What was you were hoping to going to happen?
So we were really excited because, as I said, we've been 18 months. We took a hotel which was 95 out of 97 on TripAdvisor in Glasgow, and we managed to get it into the top 15 hotels in the city.
Fantastic.
So we were absolutely, all the hard work was done. We were launching the beer garden at Easter weekend, which we can see 80 people in, not socially distanced, clearly not now, we have 50, but we can fit 80 people outside. We've completely refurbished that. We were finishing off our last remaining room with 1 room to refurbish. We were putting a wee bit more extra work into the event space, and the diary was full. It was full for events. Every Sunday and Saturday in May was a communion. We had weddings, we had tour groups, we had musical events, we had theatre events. For the first time, I really was looking at my business and thinking, right, we're turning the corner here. All the hard work that we've put into this point is now going to, reap the rewards. The Euros, the football was on, and room rates in Glasgow were really high, and the main kind of thing that was amazing was there was the climate conference in November, which was 10 days of rooms being completely fully booked at 3-4 times the rate that you would normally charge. So there was all these different events and different things happening in the city, along with us really coinciding with us having built our business to a level. The Glasgow Life really interested in putting all the travel bloggers up with us. We had a bit of media coverage, and yeah, it was the year that Cathedral House was going to really be on the map for Glasgow as a real unique place to stay, a unique place to eat and drink and to visit. And yeah, probably I think worse from that point of view, because we were right on the cusp of kind of making a real success of it. But, well, I keep saying everyone's in the same boat, but people keep saying to me, well, everyone's on the same sea, but some people are in bigger boats.
That's a good analogy.
I keep saying things to myself and I think, well, that's not actually true, because, we have been impacted way more than the people who make masks or hand sanitizers, for example. So we're not all in the same boat as such, but, it's difficult times for us all. And we were really, really optimistic about 2020. And they would never have predicted it. And certainly Bridgine didn't think it was going to be for this length of time either. We thought we would have recovered in the summer or autumn at the latest. And now, genuinely, I heard someone on the radio today saying that it would be 3 years before the city hotel market in Scotland recovers. So they were talking about Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen.
Yeah, sort of when you look at the stats and when you look at experts and polls and everything else, they're saying there's two sides. If you're optimistic or pessimistic, if you're optimistic to get back to sort of 2019-ish levels, you're talking end of 2021, start of 2022. If you're pessimistic, it's probably going to be 2023, 2024. So that's what they're saying. But again, no one has a crystal ball. All we can do is keep doing what we're doing and the hope that something will come out, some sort of vaccine will come out sooner rather than later. Obviously, that will take time to distribute around amongst the world, but that's all we need to wait for and hope for. So Deborah, what about yourself? What was your aspect and outlook in 2020?
Back at the beginning of the year, it seems forever ago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you in a little bit of similar way to Laura, but entirely different business. 2020, we had the best value advanced bookings we have ever had. So back in January, looking at the year ahead, we had some superb bookings, quite a large number of Europeans, more than we've ever had before. A couple of years ago, we invested in a new website. And like most active business owners, you're constantly looking to improve, check your offers good, not just in terms of pricing, but engaging and collaborating with local activity providers, knowing exactly what's what with restaurants and places to visit. So we've put a lot of effort in over the years, and I really felt back in January, this is looking good. We've done well over the years, but this year was looking really, really good. Mm-hmm. So that's where we were at the beginning of the year. I think of my positive days, I'm still constantly looking at what we can do to make things work for people, what we can do to give people confidence to book now or for next year. I'm waiting to understand what happens with self-catering accommodation between now and the end of this year. So I've still got bookings, but bit by bit, they're having to cancel because of different restrictions in different places. So, we were looking very good. We're still fine. We will still be here next year. But we've got a local wedding venue that has ceased trading for next year. I understand they will restart in 2022, but they have declared next year as a non-trading year. So they've been refunding brides and grooms and bridal parties. But actually, again, even though it's for next year, I'm now having cancellations for next year because of this particular wedding business going bump.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Zakia, what about yourself? What was your hopes and dreams for 2020 before all the madness started?
I think like everybody else, looking really bright and lovely, and it resonates with us because one of the things I've been trying to say as a social enterprise, we were able to maybe access support, funding, but also, mentoring and loads of different things that other businesses may not have been able to do. So that's lucky in a way. But I've been trying to explain to people within the sector that it's not only the bookings that are not happening right now, it's also all those operators that would send groups to us, or people to us that no longer exist in 2021 and onwards, that we had contracts with, or people who would send, travelers off the cruise liners, or things like that we can no longer rely on, and even though we had confirmed bookings with them, so we started in 2016 in Edinburgh, but I always say that our first year was really 2018 in terms of real trading and having enough people on tours. The first 2 years we were trying to find our feet, and it was a side hustle, for a lot of us, and we didn't even have a team. And so in Glasgow, the tour started in November 2018. So last year was a massive year where we invested a lot. I invested a lot in building a team. And hiring people to be able to support our guides, our trainees, and I had a look at our accounts and our different costs and things actually a couple of days ago. And that was a massive investment to do and to make, and because we wanted to grow. So this year was meant to be the best year to date, and the one when the fruit of that could be visible, and we could grow really. So all of this year has put a stop to this, and it was also the year that we started expanding to other areas in the UK, but also in Scotland as well, and all of that has had to be put on hold. So we were going to launch Invisible Cardiff, for example, in April this year. So this hasn't happened, obviously, and it's unsure whether it will happen next year, because again, we work with people that are responsible for emergency responses when things like COVID happen. So when you're having to put people off the streets and feed them and house them, organizing walking tours sometimes can seem as a secondary goal. So it's having the impact has been that we've had to rethink of a lot of things that we do and how we operate, and maybe grow a bit more locally and from every place that we're already at, as opposed to try and go to other cities. But for us it was the best year to date, and yet it hasn't been. And a bit like what Deborah was saying, we will be okay, and we're still here, and I'm incredibly grateful and thankful that we are, and we have and that's thanks to customers who've been wanting to support and book again and have friends book again, that type of thing, or buy gift cards, or all the things that we did. But also because we are a social enterprise, and we were able to receive some funding from the Scottish government in particular to kind of look after our own people. But in terms of business, I think once we're into the new year, I see that fade away as well. Like a lot of the support that I saw at the very start of lockdown in particular now is no longer here. Even for us who were able to access anything. And I know a lot of businesses within the sector haven't really felt the space where they can fit in. I've heard a lot of people say, well, we don't qualify for this, we don't qualify for that, we don't know where we qualify, because we're a one-woman band running a tour, and or I'm organizing events. That doesn't really fit. So I can't even imagine what the situation is for them when they haven't had the support. But for us, in any way, we'll be there next year with big changes, I think, and definitely stopped growing the team, which for me was a big thing into 2020 and 2021. And unfortunately, I think we'll have to put a stop to this. But thankfully, we haven't had to put anyone, and to have anybody made redundant, and that's a massive win, I think. And yeah, so we'll take one day at a time, like a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear that you've not managed to, or not had to make anyone redundant. It's great to hear, especially from the type of people that you help as well. So that's really good to hear. What about yourself, Regine? What was your? Oh, sorry, Zakia, what were you going to say?
No, and I think for us, that's even more, not more important, but I think a lot of people were freaked out, and I see a lot of people being made redundant in the industry and in every industry, and that's a great position to be in.
Oh, for sure. What about yourself, Regine? What was your hopes and dreams for 2020 before all this?
2020 was going to be another great year. We're we're a relatively young attraction. You know, we opened our doors in November 2017, and so next month will be our 3-year anniversary. We had a really strong January and February. You know, we're sitting. We were very confident we were going to achieve the forecast that we had set, and that was to be 20% up on last year. And actually, as a new business, you know, we're in that growth of year-on-year growth. You know, we had so many more group bookings in the diary. Advanced booking was really strong into the year. Our evening events business, again, really, really strong. So yeah, we're very optimistic. And then we also had, you know, very much, I think the key in anything is collaborations, but we had a joint offering with Glasgow City Sightseeing, a joint ticket tour. We had a new offering going out with the Red Bus Bistro. You know, so we had new things as well coming to the market, as well as other new partnerships. And our team had grown last year, and again, you know, we would have been but growing that team again this year. And you know, the hopes were, you know, that the city, the business coming in city was very strong from a conferencing, events, and of course, really looking forward to what COP26 was going to bring to us as well. And then 2020 was also about you know, getting ready for our whisky cask that had been filled in December 2017. Will be 3 years of maturing, you know, so getting ready for that new product hitting the market next year. So, you know, really ambitious, but as a business, you know, we are ambitious and, you know, want to keep growing and developing. That's not happened. It's most definitely on hold. But for future, it's about those collaborations, reigniting them, and grow again.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. Do any of you have any optimism for 2021? Do you think it's going to be more of the same, or do you think it's going to improve? How do you all see 2021 panning out? I'll come to Deborah first.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I want to be optimistic about it. So most of the time I am. Every now and again, I'll be driving, listening to someone on the radio and hit a great big gloom. And, it's doom and gloom. Yeah. However, one of the positives of this summer, I have had guests and I have seen people around Loch Lomond who have not previously chosen this area as a holiday destination. So they might have been going to a European resort or something like that. And they have rethunk, add English, rethought their holiday ideas. And they've come and they've had a great time. So they might have done water activities on the loch. They might have had some really lovely food. They might have gone into Glasgow, gone to a distillery, gone to one of the ones locally to us as well. They will have come into town. They've gone to some of Glasgow's great museums. They can go and have a day in Edinburgh or Stirling or explore the West Coast. So there's been a lot of people who I hope and I trust will come back, not just in 2021, but for other holidays in years to come, because they've explored something that they've not, I don't know, maybe not thought of before. So I hope to see some of those people directly again, and I hope our area and our industry sees them again, whether it's for their main holiday or a subsidiary holiday through the year. I want people to book with confidence. I want January to be really good for bookings, you know, for the year ahead. I want all of us, as best we can in the circumstances, to try and collectively boost our morale and go for it. Now, I'm not naive. I think this is going to go on, unfortunately, longer than any of us really want to. But I want people to have to prepare for the places that they come and visit. There are a few issues, not just in rural areas, of people just suddenly coming out, leaving their rubbish everywhere, and not caring for the places they visit, whether that's Kelvin Grove Park in Glasgow, Finnick Glen, Devil's Pulpit out here, coastal areas. And it's not always about national parks or rangers to manage that. It's about individuals to take responsibility for the places they visit. So, yeah, I want to feel optimistic. Sometimes I don't feel optimistic about it, but I tend to err on the, come on, let's go for it. Let's do the best we can. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you made a good point there. I've got friends who have family out in Ballyhoolish, so they go out there quite a lot. And unfortunately, they're seeing, you mentioned there about not keeping the place tidy and things like that. They're seeing a big issue with that, of people coming in and just dumping things and leaving tents and everything else, just because, especially groups of, hate to say younger people, because they can't go to other places, so they all congregate in a set particular area, pretty much destroy it and then leave again, sort of thing. So it's a big issue, especially for the further north you go, of people just trying to escape and go somewhere. So that's something we need to look out for sure. But on the positive side, having people travel within their own location or visiting places and actually discovering Scotland and actually seeing how beautiful it is, and they've never done that. But I know so many people who have hardly left Glasgow or Edinburgh who have not been that far north at all. Maybe Loch Lomond's as far north as they've been, but going further again, it's just been able to open their eyes to what's actually on the doorstep. In one ways, it being the positive side of it, I think. So, for sure. What about yourself, Zakia? Is there anything you think is going to be optimistic for 2021?
Yeah, I think to go back to something Bridget said, I think collaboration gives me a lot of hope and optimism for the future. Because if one thing, it's made us think, what the hell can I do? What other things can I push, or how can we work together now that the world is a bit different? And I've seen that a lot during the year and I think into the next year, and trying to develop, new ideas, and not only for us, but we've had a lot of approaches from businesses that I think otherwise wouldn't have had the time to kind of look at that, because you're busy running your day to day, but all of a sudden you have set the time to think of other things. And so yeah, that gives me optimism. And for us, sorry, I have a really bad cat who's like completely mental, so it's making a bit of a mess right in front of me that way. So but yeah, we, for example, developed a subscription box for little travelers, so for young kids to discover different countries throughout the year and be able. So of course we started with Scotland, but I look at that because for us it was a way to stay engaged, have people work, and also have a product that we can sell should we go back into lockdown again, or for international travelers to be able to buy as a gift. And I always use this example. It came about because we had the time and the mind space to do that. And I see a lot of optimism and a lot of people are going that direction, and that fills me with hope. And I think depends what day of the week it is. Some other days it's very doom and gloom, and when you see there's no booking, and then that's quite difficult. People are still a bit scared to book activities, I think, and I'm still a bit scared to book activities, so I can totally understand that. But even we were talking a little bit about that before, conferences, which for us was a big thing, and for me sometimes to speak at, and those are starting to come back. People are still planning ahead, and saying, right, in 2021 I will book this event in March and that event in whatever, and then see what happens. So because I guess what's the alternative to stop and not do anything anymore, and be on pause. So I think collaboration will get us through a lot, I think, and it's made us very resilient and a lot more connected, which I think we can all say is a positive part of what this year has been, if only online, and and be on the phone a lot more to the people we love, but also to be in touch a lot more. I've never spoken to as many people in the industry as I have during lockdown and during this period, and it's made me a lot closer to a lot of partners and a lot of things. And so I think we will continue that way and hopefully take the good side of that into 2021 and onwards, and keep working on like that. And to go back to what I was saying about, sometimes mental health and well-being of our guides, I think that's also something we'll take with us, is to check on each other a bit more, because we have seen how difficult it's been for everyone through this period of uncertainty and illness and difficulties and doom and gloom. I think in my team, for example, it's very high on the agenda every day to check with each other how we're doing, and if we're a bit depressed or a bit, positive or pessimistic or whatever. So, and I think this is something as a way of working, we will take with us as well, and that's a positive consequence of it all.
Yeah, you made a good point there, and I got to agree with you. I think if there is one positive that comes out of COVID is not just the travel industry, but everyone in general. I think it will make us a lot more connected with everyone else, because we in travel, there is no such thing as a competitor, in my opinion. We all need to help each other out. We all need to make sure this industry survives and we all get through it and everything else. So the amount of conversations you can have with people, the amount of connections you can make, partnerships you can make, it's just going to benefit everyone in the long run. And I think it will make us a much more connected and industry going forward. So yeah. So Laura, what about yourself? What do you think 2021 holds for yourself?
So I'm kind of listening on and just thinking the word collaboration has been used by everyone, I think, and we should have been announcing last week that we were about to have a pop-up with a really famous Glasgow restaurant at Cathedral House starting on the 30th of November. So obviously with the current situation that's not happening, but that's what we've decided to look at. We've decided to look at our product and to decide what areas do we need some help with, and if we can bring in an operator who's got a name, a following, a reputation, and they can pop up at Cathedral House. We did a wee bit of it during the summer, just with a kind of street food vibe in the beer garden, and it worked really well. So I was hoping that tonight I could tell everyone who it is and what's happening, but it has to stay a secret for now, just in case. But that's what we are looking at. We're looking at our cafe bar. That's a brilliant restaurant space for an already established business, rather than us trying to establish a business there. If we can bring someone in that is already established, already has a following, already has an amazing reputation, great social media, then we can both work together to make Cathedral House work. Our event space, again, is a space that's got the best views in Glasgow, in my opinion, the necropolis, the cathedral. That space is currently lying empty. It's awful. We need to think of a creative way to use that space. And maybe something to do with whiskey, Brigitte, who knows? Or some kind of shop, or, because people should come and see that space so that they can see the amazing views within Glasgow. So for us next year, yes, I'm optimistic. It's all about collaboration. It is all about trying to just be creative, and it's all about adapting to the change that we see around us, not even weekly or monthly, but like daily. And the corporate travellers are not coming back. Zoom has taken over the world. That's going to minimise. We're going to have to concentrate on staycations, leisure travellers, and maybe putting some kind of packages together so people feel really safe that they're going and they're doing a tour, and then they're going to the whiskey, and then they're going up to Loch Lomond, and you kind of do all the work for people. I think that will help. But I've fallen in love with Cathedral House. I know it's an old baronial haunted house that was built in 1896, but I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I need to stay positive and be optimistic.
And Brigitte, I assume you'll be looking to hopefully release your whiskey in 2021. What was you hoping for?
And how we are counting down to it now. I mean, to be honest, I'm an optimistic person by nature. My glass is always half full. Maybe not the great way to be in the climate we have been in, but it's been a horrendous year, but we have to look to the future. We are fortunate. We do have a new product hitting the market. For me, it is it's about restart, relaunch, get those doors open again. And what that looks like, we don't know. But as it stands, it will happen. there's a lot to be said about our people and how we rely on people to bring us business, and it's these partnerships and working with the hotels, the concierges, the sales people, the chauffeur drive companies. We have brand evenings, individuals who come along to these. I can't wait to see these people again, and we're going to see them in 2021. And I'm not naive. It's going to be tough, but we have to find what that new normal is, and we have to just take our time, be patient, and it will come back, and it will grow. And I think once we see everything else open up in the city, then we'll all see the benefits of it. And next year, we've had great collaborations set up that were stalled. We're going to push them forward, and we'll get more set up as well. And I think that's a really important thing for customers. Laura said, the packages where you really are taking the hassle out of it for the customer, that's key, and we need to do more of that as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a chat afterwards.
There you go. This is what I love about Travel Massive. There's business happening already, even in a live chat. So that's what's great. This is what it's all about. I've got one sort of final question before I go to the people watching, the viewers, if they've got any questions. So if you do have any questions, anyone who's watching or listening, please do comment on the various platforms, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So in terms of part of me is thinking, we just have to live with COVID safely, obviously, but we just have to get on with our lives. We can't be in lockdown or have restrictions on our lives forever. No, it just can't happen. The world just won't. But we'll stop spinning if we were to do that. But if you guys had, what's your guys' thoughts on that? If you had Boris Johnson or Nicola Sturgeon in front of you, what would you say to them? And keep it as clean as you can. What's your answer? But there we go. If you had them in front of you, what would you say you think could make things better or easier for the industry? Or if you had one question to ask, what would that be? I'll come to yourself, Laura, first for that one.
It's really difficult because I do admire many of the things that they have done. I wouldn't want to be in their position for a start. But the frustrating thing for me is, as far as I'm concerned, we're their customers as such, if I think about it in my terms. And I think that the way that they communicate and kind of make it political for me sometimes just drives me insane. We need to keep it simple. If we need to lock down for X amount of time, then let's do that. And I think I just find the whole communication and the fact that now Wales is different from Scotland, is different from Aberdeen, is different from, it's now getting to the ridiculous stages, and people are very confused. And I think if people were told I would just want them to be honest, communicate out what they think the reality is, and stop hiding things and then announcing them. And see, please don't make it political. Can you just think about the health and welfare of the country and the economy of the country second? I mean, health and welfare first. And we're not stupid, but I feel sometimes we are treated a wee bit that way, and it's, the media and the politics and everything is getting in the way of what is a very difficult time. But I think sometimes they can make it a wee bit more difficult rather than easier for us all.
Yeah, I actually think that they hold back too much at the moment. I think they should have just came out and says, look, okay, we're doing these little restrictions here and there, things are closing up. I think they should just come out and say, look, we're going to be in this for 18 months. No one's actually really came from the government and says this is going to be for the long haul. This is going to be hard for everyone. And I think they just need to be that honest with everyone, to be honest. Because a lot of people, I was in a webinar last night as well for Arrival, and I was doing a couple of chats on a wine tourism webinar as well in Italy, and I mentioned about 18 months being a possibility of before things really improve, and I had a few comments saying, really, 18 months? No, people just don't realise how long that could be affected. So I think we just need to come out and be honest with everyone and say so. Deborah, what would your question be to them both?
quite interesting. I would absolutely like to have a rant. I don't mean to you
Rant
guys,
away.
but no, because no. I think as a small business owner, and it might apply to bigger businesses too, for most politicians, they have had no experience and have little knowledge about how a business works. And that has presented problems. It probably presents problems all year, every year, to be quite honest, but it is emphasized when, we're all struggling. I think Laura's absolutely right. I wouldn't wish to be in their position. I think there has been a massive inconsistency on messaging and comms. I'll say particularly from Westminster. I'm a stats person. I'm good with data. So I think having a clear tier system or a clear bunch of rules is really important. It's really important for everyone in the public to understand what they are and not constantly try and find the loopholes. And I think the main thing for business from the politicians, you actually need to know what your exit strategy is from this, not just how you get into tier 3, 2, 1, whatever. It's how you get out of that. And if that's a 3-month thing, a 12-month thing, who knows? Actually being honest about the time frame or the criteria that gets you in or out of a bunch of restrictions will make it easier for people to plan. And I'd say for hospitality particularly, but also for accommodation, we're here in Scotland, it's a Tuesday, the rules change next Monday, but we don't know what they are. So do pubs, hotels, people who provide food, do they order in for next Monday? Do they not? It's very difficult for the whole supply chain. So yeah, exit strategy would be my top request as to how we're going to move out of this.
Yeah, you make a good point there. It's leaving things to the last minute, not informing people, because you say, you have to order things in, or if you do order them in, well, they go to waste, and that is such a big issue at the moment. It's what a lot of people don't realise.
Just with accommodation. So if I've got someone arriving on Monday, right just now, they legally can arrive. If someone tells me Friday that the rules have changed again, do I have to cancel them? It's just not great.
Yeah. Bridget, yourself?
Oh gosh, it could be a wee while. It could be a conversation. Obviously, social distance. Yeah, I mean, to echo what Laura says, I think there has been politicians have been guilty of politicizing this, and people, community, businesses to come to the fore. Well, support has been great. It's sort out the support. It's not a one fund fits all, and that's because we look at our events industry, we look at all the suppliers that I know, and too many people have not had that support. And to be honest, the other thing is, like, switch on your listening ears. There's real experts around them, but more importantly, there's phenomenal people feeding into our government who are, individuals who are taking on roles that are beyond what they, had expected their roles to be, who are communicating with our politicians. Listen to them, because they're advising them what the businesses actually need. And and I think when you look at the talent who's feeding into government, listen, most definitely. And I suppose the other one, when we look at the long term and how do we get people again, sort out the testing, get testing coming out of Scotland. Okay. These things are really key. And then we also have to be compelling when we're coming out of this. We want Scotland to be right. We're going to Scotland, but we want to be able to compete internationally. So look at the airport duty. That's been lobbied. Again, listen to them and do the right thing. Maintain the VAT cuts. Give people a chance to build back up again. But all of this is not information that hasn't been fed through. So yeah, listen.
Yep. Can't agree. Was Zakia yourself?
I don't know what else I can say after this. Sometimes I feel like I don't understand the information, and then I can only imagine. I don't feel any of this is really accessible to people maybe who's for whom English is a second language, or who may have other difficulties in life, and it feels to me that there's a massive lack of understanding how even business works, like you were saying before, or how everything is interconnected. And so, even shutting down on a Friday night for a Monday, how that's going to be effective. And at the same time, if the agenda is to look after, sustainability or, food or whatever, and I just think get rid of the confusion by talking to the people who are at the heart of the industry and who do the business day to day. I saw something earlier on of a restaurant doing a wee protest at Scottish Parliament by having an outdoor dining, putting the tables and having dinner on the esplanade. And I think, how sad is it that we have to do this? Or to put ice in front of the Parliament for you to realise that it's not only the pub that's going to be having issues, but it's every supplier down the chain and the guy who provides the ice as well. I just think there's a lot of things like that, and it seems to me that it's not connected at all. Like we were just saying that we feel a lot more connected as individuals, as professionals within the industry, and yet there's a divide between that and what our government does or says. And I think, listen and action what people say, but also make it so that, the communication part you were saying, Laura, is super important, because I don't think I'm a stupid person. And so if I find it really hard and like I have to be the one that explains to others and I already don't know what's going on, I can't imagine what people who are already maybe a bit confused because of other challenges must feel like. And that doesn't breed for very healthy people, businesses to go back to later on when we're able to. And also collaboration again. Some countries do it in a different way or in a better way, or I think I had some family issues, so I had to travel to France recently, and the tracking system, or the way, the kind of accountability for people when you are there, is so much different than what it is in Scotland when I returned. And I thought, is that it? Is that what you want from me, to say, yeah, I'll sign in this form and maybe I'll stay in? That literally was my experience at the airport. A lovely gentleman saying to me, you have to stay in, right? And I said, yes, of course. And that was it. So I just think, there are practical things we can do right now by following example of others, or by listening into advice, or coming together, and have a unified, not only for Scotland, but for other countries, to come and do that together. And I think, why are we not doing this? Because I understand some things take time or may be more difficult to implement, but my feeling is that some things that may be clearer and on the shorter term, like actionable right now, can be done. And I feel frustrated that they're not. So that would be my added point, I guess.
It's a good point you make. It really is a very good point. And all your points have been fantastic, and it's along the sort of lines that I would approach them and say to them as well. And I think there needs to be more clarity, and there does seem to be a disconnect between what the government thinks and says compared to what's happening with the boots on the ground and the businesses and everything else. There's no cohesion. They have done a lot of good things, as Laura says, bringing in furlough schemes and the grants and everything else. My own business has taken some of them as well, and it's helped massively and everything else. So on one side, they have done some great work, and the other side, we need clarity. We need that plan. We need to know, as Deb was saying, the exit strategy. Know what is going to happen going forward. What are we going to be like this time next year or whatever? So there needs to be some sort of plan. In any good business, you plan ahead and as much as best as you can. And we don't, from what I'm seeing, we don't seem to have that plan at all from any of the governments, to be honest. So it just all seems to be reactive rather than looking ahead. So personally, but well, I see a couple of questions. I know I've taken up a lot of your time, but I see a couple of questions coming in. If you don't mind, we'll go through them. So a quick one from Tina to Zakia. How when you do run tours, or when you were able to run tours, how was the sort of maximum group size affected? Did you have to reduce that, or did you have small groups anyway, so it wasn't really affected? How was that impacting your business?
Yeah, we've reduced massively. We've reduced groups, but also the safety measures. I was going to say, to have safe distancing in place and protective equipment for our guides, and asking customers, even though we're outside, to all wear masks and things like that. It took so long for everybody to understand and to actually, do all the time. And it required a lot of practice of us going and meeting outside as a team, as a 2 or as a 3 or whatever, because just for me, the distance is a thing with a lot of our guides, because because of who they are, and they wouldn't understand why. What do you mean safe distancing? What does it mean? How far do I have to stand? And then you can't hear me and I can hear you. And I think it's the practicalities of that. So now we operate 2 households, and we have very, very small groups right now, or usually, 2s or 3s or 4s when it's one single family or one single booking, and that's it, and our guide. And we do a lot of tours that are done in a business way, simply for the sake of our guides being able to tour. So generate an income and stay engaged and stay busy. And because for a lot of them, it's a routine that gets installed, and that's something to do outside of the house or outside of wherever they're staying. So as long as we can cover, our minimum cost of them getting paid, and then we will go ahead. But we're not accepting larger parties.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the same as everyone. I think everyone's having to reduce their group sizes and everything else. So, I know you dropped out there, Bridget. I'm glad you came back. So, next question's for yourself. One from Frank, who's one of our guys who comes along to a lot of our travel masters when we can do these live. Are you looking to do any virtual tours for the Clydeside Distillery, and when do you think you may reopen again in 2021? He's asking.
Yeah, we have. We've actually done an internal version of our virtual tours, and that's something that we have been working on. With regard to opening, our aim is we'll open for Easter next year, and that's when we're working towards the early April, 1st of April. And with regard to virtual, we have done for corporate clients who got in contact, we did a small number of virtual tastings, which have been very well received. The key thing is about what does next year look like, getting ready for that, because one of our challenges at the minute is what are we planning for? The 2-meter rule is still in place, but on the flip side, we do have a potential plan of what that could look like next year, but we will be opening for Easter.
Yeah, I'll keep everything crossed for sure. One of the things that I don't know what the rules are here in terms of distributing out alcohol to, sending it to people within Scotland and stuff like that. So forgive me, but one company who I know of in Belgium, for example, she does virtual tours for beer tasting, but what she does is she sends out the beer in a box to those within her area, because it's all domestic, out to the people, so they can still be online, taste the actual beer. She'll talk them through the history of it, the notes, everything else. Do you think that's something that you guys could do with the whiskey, for example? When you launched the whiskey, if you still had to do virtual tours, you'd be able to do that side of it as well?
Yeah, most definitely. Again, like anything, once you have your own product, we know other whiskey distilleries who are doing virtual tours, and it's a great thing to be able to get their products out there, and these can be distributed to Europe, and it's a great way to engage with your audience. And but yeah, I mean that's most definitely something for next year, depending on how things look. That from a virtual point of view, once we have a product, we've got capacity to really do so much more with that.
Yeah,
and I can say that the product itself is tasting exceptional. I'm lucky enough to have had the sneak taste along the way of maturation. So again, the release will tie in with our reopening, and we'll be selling that from our shop at the distillery.
I'll be there. I want to taste it myself. So this is a question from Peter Trowells, who was one of our past guests. This is for everyone. Given the so-called staycations, are we likely to be in the only glimmer of hope for Scottish tourism in the short to medium term? What do Scotland, big cities in particular, have to do to replace their previous reliance on international corporate and events-driven businesses? What do we need to do to change things, do you think?
I mean, I think from a city point of view, the sort of more rural locations, it's quite different. And a big challenge I see for Glasgow is, from the initial restrictions introduced, that had an instant catastrophic impact on those businesses that were opened, where it had been mentioned the cancellations has happened. The key thing is consumer confidence, and that's something that has decreased. And I think it's really important to see that increase in consumer confidence. It's about the right messaging going out, because even as things are, I have friends in Edinburgh who are assuming Glasgow's open, so we need to get that messaging out. I mean, as we stand at the moment, the numbers are going up. We know there's further changes happening, but I think when the time is right to start again, we need to get that positive messages out, that it's safe to travel. We have our Glasgow taxis and what they've put in place, and not just to name Glasgow taxis, we work very closely, but many others, from what the transportation have put in place, what our city sightseeing had put in place. All of this was really good, and they have assessed it and had good practices in place. So I think the key is consumer confidence, and that messaging of coming out and visiting our cities again, because I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything to add to that? Or
I think it's right. So
Deborah, you go first.
I think it's right that obviously I am rural, but within 40 minutes of the centre of Glasgow. I think it's right that cities have a different problem to face. A lot of people post the main lockdown, felt more comfortable coming to rural areas because of the space around. Now, in fact, some rural areas were probably busier than Glasgow city centre or Edinburgh city centre. They have the same problems. And so it is what Laura mentioned earlier about packaging, and it is exactly what Brigitte says about messaging, and for tourism businesses to state very clearly on their websites what they are doing to make their customers safe, because not everyone is communicating that. And we would like that comms to happen at a national level or regional level, but it also has to come from individual businesses. So, we need to build the confidence, and we really need to do that for 21.
Mm-hmm. Guys, I can't thank you all enough for taking the time. I know we've probably run over the time we were thinking. It was expected. I imagine there was a lot of heartfelt chat and discussions and everything else coming from this. So I really do appreciate you taking the time. I know you have all got businesses to run, whether it's in COVID or not, and we're all busy. So if anything, I actually find that because of COVID, we're actually busier than ever. No, we're having to work harder for the sales. We're having to work harder to make things, to make sure we survive. We're working longer hours from home and everything else. So again, appreciate the time you're all taking, and hopefully at some point we can get all of us around again, actually in front of an audience and doing this chat and being a bit more optimistic about how things are going to pan out next year. And here's hoping that can happen sometime soon.
Yeah.
So thanks. Yeah. So thanks again.
Thanks so much. No, thanks for having us. I think that's really inspiring to see other people in other, in the same industry, but yet this, different bits of it. And I always feel like we're different but the same. So it's always quite nice to feel like super connected again. So very valuable. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.